For this video we'll be taking a direct EuroCity train between Frankfurt in Germany and Milan in Italy, going straight through and also under the Alps through the Gotthard Base Tunnel, also calling in Basel and Zürich in Switzerland. I really enjoyed this ride and I'll show you why in this video. Join us on board this EuroCity train from Frankfurt in Germany via Basel, Zürich and Lugano in Switzerland to Milan in Italy. For now, let's get this video on the track and let's roll the intro. However, before we start with the video, let's take a close look on the environmental impact if you're traveling on this route by train, car or plane. Car data is based on the European average and also European average amount of passengers, what is 1.5. If you take the plane as a starting position, the train is around 96.5% less polluting than taking the plane on the same route. However, the aviation industry doesn't want you to calculate the different way around. In that situation, if you take the train as a starting point, so 100%, the plane is 2,767.86% more polluting than taking the train on the same route. Just so you know, the aviation industry is fooling you. And we just need more trains and less planes. Well, I won't dig in this for now. For now we really start with this trip report. We started our day at another smaller railway station not too far away from Frankfurt main station. From where on we took the S-Bahn, what is a commuter train in Frankfurt, to Frankfurt main station. If you are known with this channel, you know that I always do station reviews. But this time I won't do that. Of course I show you some glimpse of Frankfurt main station. However, I have two videos where I am already featuring Frankfurt main station. And there are still some construction works going on, so I think that's a valid reason to not do it as long as not finished yet. I'll link the videos where I feature related railway stations for this train below in the description of this video. What are videos about Frankfurt, Basel, Zürich, Arth-Goldau, Lugano and Milano Centrale. Frankfurt is a terminal station. We'll have some more terminal stations along this route today. However, a terminal station basically means that this is the end of the tracks. So trains that do call here have this as a stop along the way, but you do find quite some trains that just start or end their journey here. But if it's a stop along the way, obviously the trains need to change direction. And therefore the layout basically speaks for itself. Anyway, let's go to our train that was already waiting for us at the platform. And here it is, our EuroCity train that will serve 3 countries and go straight through the Alps. Before you go to the platform, there's a composition screen and information display that will host information about the stations along the way, the train number, etc. For this specific route, I also filmed the views from the train for the entire route. It's a long video and I still need to edit this because I want to make sure that people are not recognizable, at least the railway passengers, in the reflection of the window. And I have 2 microphones to make sure I don't catch private conversations of other passengers. Where I do catch that, I will block it out, obviously. So yeah, that's quite a lot of work. I will publish those videos for now on another channel. You can find that in the description of this video. I really appreciate it if you subscribe to that as well, at least if you're interested. And for this journey, we were traveling in first class. I hope you like this video so far. If you do so, or if it's a helpful video, please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. If you'd like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, the main focus for this channel is long distance and international traveling. Well, here we definitely have both. Then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. For now, let's just continue with this video. And even though I mainly travel in second class, because to me second class is in general a good product, this first class is absolutely great. And we have a good reason to travel for this entire journey as much as possible in first class. Because now we can still do it before we end up in this area. Basically, what I'm saying, there is a mini Trainviking on its way. And that doesn't mean we won't travel in first class anymore. However, if you're traveling with children and especially very young children, most facilities for kids or in general in second class, and therefore I think I will prefer traveling in second class for that reason if we have a little kid. For now, let's take a closer look at the exterior of our train for today. What is an SBB Giruno? These trains are being made by the Swiss train manufacturer Stadler and can operate obviously in Italy, Germany and Switzerland, but also in Austria. These trains do have a top speed of 250 km per hour. Right next to all the entrance doors, it has been clearly marked if you have first or second class area of the train, and the first class has been marked with an extra yellow stripe above the doors. The yellow stripe is pretty standard for many countries within Europe as the mentioning of the first class. Separating from the first and the second class, you will find the dining car, and this dining car is absolutely great. I'll show you all in a bit. The accessible area, what is in first and second class, right next to the dining car, has some extra entrance doors. One entrance door is totally barrier free and the other one has a small step. At the outside it has been clearly marked what facilities can be found where. This here is for example the area if you're traveling with kids. I'll show you this in a bit. Screens at the doors do host pretty detailed route information. This is not only the train number, the carriage number, the stations and the final destination. But what I really like, there's also a busyness indicator. The top speed for these trains is 250 km per hour, although there's only a small section of the journey where we also go along this top speed. Even though these trains are being owned by the Swiss state-owned railway company SBB, this train will be operated with a cooperation of the German state-owned railway company for the German section, the Swiss state-owned railway company for the Swiss section, and surprise surprise the Italian state-owned railway company for the Italian section of the route. If you're traveling for the Italian part of this route, a reservation is obligated. If you have a normal ticket, it's included in the ticket, but if you're traveling with the use of Interrail or Eurail, you need to pay for an extra surcharge, what includes the reservation as well. This train is, well, one of the many trains you find hourly between Zürich in Switzerland and Milan in Italy. If you're only traveling between Zürich and Milan, you can expect the same type of rolling stock. Let's have a close look on the map for today. We start our journey at Frankfurt Hauptbahnhof. This is Germany's second busiest railway station and Europe's third busiest railway station. From there on we go via Mannheim and Karlsruhe and Freiburg to Basel in Switzerland. There we change direction towards Zürich, where we change direction again. Both in Basel and Zürich we stay a little bit longer. From there on we go towards Arth-Goldau, and not long after Arth-Goldau we go through the Gotthard Base Tunnel, the longest tunnel in the world. Right after that we make a stop at Bellinzona, Lugano, and the first stop in Italy is Como. From where on we continue to Milan. The train makes some more stops along the way as what I mentioned here, but I think these are the most important railway stations. Now for now let's take a close look at the interior of our train for today. And I will start off with first class, simply because we were traveling here as well. At the very end or beginning of the train, depending what way the train is moving, you find the silence area. This is obviously the best spot for the silence area. And over here you also find more airline style seats compared to the rest of the train, what makes a lot of sense as well. And what I really like, at some spots where there's not a lot of room for windows, you find these very tiny windows, so actually at all seats in these trains, both in first and second class, you do have windows, even though this might be a very tiny window. And the windows are also positioned in a way that it's nice to look outside. Absolutely great, and especially if you have scenic parts in the Alps. About the screens with route information, you find a lot of them. Let me go quickly out of the train and walk in again. As you can see on the door it's very clear, including a business indicator for this specific carriage. At the moment you walk in, you find the screen with route information and once again the business indicator that tells you how busy it is in the entire train, and I really like that. I like to see this a little bit more often in trains. Well, for now let's do a toilet review before I show you the rest of the first class. I mean, no train tour is complete without showing you the toilet. Between the carriages you will find 3 toilets. 1 unisex toilet, 1 for women only and 1 for men only, and that's basically a urinal. The gender neutral toilets and the woman only toilets are basically the same, and this is how they look like. And I really like the fact that they have all these diaper changing facilities in these toilets. You find quite a lot of spots where you can change the diaper if you're traveling with a little baby. The woman only toilet has not been marked that clear, and it's basically the same toilet as what I showed you a little bit earlier on. During our train journey, some cleaning staff came by to clean the toilets as well, by the way. So they kept the toilets clean during the ride, and what I noticed is that the toilets were clean in general. This is the men's only toilet, what is obviously a bit smaller and only has a urinal. Now let's move on to the rest of the first class that comes what you may expect in the 2x1 configuration. You find quite a lot of space for luggage. You find these dedicated luggage racks that are also suitable for skis if you're traveling with skis in the wintertime. I mean, we are traveling through the Alps after all. There are some airline style seats as well, although it's not really worth mentioning. Most seats do face each other. Personally, I'm not a big fan of that, but this is something you find a lot within Switzerland and also Italy, by the way. You find some litter bins at the vestibules you can use to separate waste, and within the tables at the moment the seats do face each other, you find litter bins as well, just like at the sides under the table. You can fold these tables out to make them slightly bigger. This area in first class was, by the way, mentioned as business area. I think an area where it's better to work from. There is absolutely not a shortage of power sockets on board of these trains. Within first class you do find 2 power sockets per person. And you can recline the seats with the handle right under the seat. I do have to say, the comfort level for these seats is pretty good, even though you can't recline them that much. For the other side of the aisle, where you find the solo seats, is basically the same story, although the table is a little bit smaller. All windows in these trains do have a sunscreen. What I like about these sunscreens is that you can still look outside. Reading lights are integrated within the luggage racks. Right below the luggage racks you will find coat hangers, and integrated within the luggage racks you will find a seat number and a digital display that displays from where to where a seat has been reserved. And for this ride I was the man on seat 61. Apart from the luggage racks, at the side of the seats you will also find the seat numbers. And for luggage you absolutely have the overhead luggage racks and the dedicated luggage racks within the open compartments, but don't miss out on the backends between the seats. Now let's go to slightly different seats in first class, and that's this over here. You sit opposite from each other, but the seats are not really opposite from each other. One is a little bit closer to the aisle and one is a little bit closer to the window, what actually creates a lot of leg room. Even though throughout the journey we had more than enough seats available, I couldn't book this for the entire journey. I really like the extra room for a small briefcase in the armrest over here. And actually, these seats here, I really like them. This makes it maybe even one of the best first class products I know within Europe. What is your favorite first class product within European trains? Let me know in the comments. And for this I don't count the executive class in the Freccia Rossa, but just regular first class product. First class doesn't give you extra things like food and drinks or so, but there's an absolutely great dining car I show you in a bit that makes it all perfectly fine. Anyway, let's review the airline style seats in first class. Obviously you find the sunscreens, there's a small litter bin at the side, including a very small table. There's a fold out table in the seat in front of you can fold out, and there's also something you can pull towards you to make a laptop balance a little bit more on here. Power sockets, well, once again, plenty of power sockets over here, and you find cup holders between the seats like everywhere in first class. At the moment we move a little closer to the dining car of this train. We are getting out in the accessible area. Let it be no surprise that over here you will also find the bigger accessible toilets. Within the second class, opposite from the dining car, you find an area that's very similar to this area. Anyway, let's review the bigger accessible toilets, of which you will find 2 on board of these trains, one in first class and one in second class, or standard class. I mean, the toilets themselves, they're pretty fine, actually a bit more spacious than the toilets I showed you earlier on a bit. They're just way more spacious. But for the rest, nothing really special or worth mentioning. Once again, everything worked and it was clean during my trip. I think that's most important. Opposite from the accessible toilet, you will find the accessible area in first class. This is rather spacious, because there's only a limited amount of wheelchair spots available. If you're traveling in a wheelchair, you obviously need to reserve that spot. Now let's move on to my favorite part of the train. What is the dining car? Dining cars of Swiss trains are in general really good. It's not only a place where you can just pick up orders and take your seat, but there's also a big seating area. This was what we had for breakfast. What was really good? If you're in the dining car, please pay attention in what currency you pay, because prices in Swiss francs and euros are exactly the same, while the value is different. The breakfast was really tasty, and it was gone before we knew it. When we had lunch, it was way busier in the dining car, so we couldn't sit opposite from each other. We were having lunch in Switzerland though, but please make sure in what currency you pay, because this was in Swiss francs, what is way pricier, and where you also need to pay an exchange fee if you pay by card. What I haven't mentioned yet, in first class you won't find extra service, but well, the dining car is coming with some light snacks and drinks towards you, what is really nice. But for the nicer meals you still have to go to the dining car itself. Also within the dining car you find several garbage bins you can use to recycle your waste. For now let's head on to the second class. Right next to the dining car in second class you will find the accessible area, and this is why the layout is slightly different in this area of the train. Obviously it also needs to have some space where you can put a wheelchair, for example. This is the accessible toilet in standard class, what is basically the same as the accessible toilet in first class. The rest in second or standard class, just how you want to mention it, comes in a 2x2 configuration. Once again, most seats do face each other, what is typically for Swiss trains and where I'm personally not a big fan of. What you will find over here as well is the child area. Well, in some Swiss trains you find entire playgrounds, and I think this is freaking awesome. But in this area over here, it's more a bit playful, and there are board games on the tables between the seats. And what I like is that basically all tables have a different board game. And because you will find 3 main languages in Switzerland and 1 smaller language, the information for all the board games on how to play is all in these 3 languages: French, German, Italian, and it's also in English to make it easier for everybody. For the rest, this is basically the same as the rest of the second or standard class, but it's just way more playful. I mean, traveling by train is already fun for kids, but I think this way it's even more fun. We find out in the not too far away future. Now let's review the regular second class, where you statistically, if you're traveling both of this train, will also travel. Once again, lots of space for luggage. It's a long distance train after all. What I haven't mentioned very well, but maybe you already noticed, what facilities or in what directions have been marked crystal clear within this train as well. Even though you find some airline style seats, most seats in standard or second class do face each other. Once again, I'm not a big fan of this, but this is very personal. You do find power sockets, although it's less than in first class, but it's still more than enough. At the side there's a small table you can fold out, and right under the table there is a litter bin. If you're traveling with a bike on board of these trains, that's possible. There are 4 bike spots. You even find power sockets right next to the bike spots, if you want to charge your e-bike. Keep in mind, you need to reserve a spot for your bike if you're traveling with these trains. Also for the Swiss and German section of the route. The reservation for the bikes have been mentioned within the displays within the luggage racks, just like for all the regular seats. At one spot in standard class, or second class I should say, I also noticed this area over here where there are some folding seats. Actually, I would expect this in the child area, well, where you can put a stroller for example, or luggage. But it's nice that it's there. This way you have really a lot of multifunctional space within the train, and I like that. Where first class has really a more playful layout, second class comes maybe a bit more boring, just in a regular 2x2 configuration, what makes sense really. Below the seats there's a handle you can use to recline the seats, although you cannot recline them that much, as you can see over here, but just a little bit. The amount of legroom is reasonable. I mean, I'm quite a tall boy, it's not bad, but it's definitely not wow. But I still prefer this compared to the seats facing each other. The table in the seat in front of you is about the same size as in first class. What surprised me in a way is that totally at the front or the back of the train, depending what way the train is moving, in standard class, you still find lots of seats facing each other. And it's a silence area. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Altogether, it's not a bad second class product at all. But it's also not my favorite second class product, let me say it like that. And these trains I just really strongly prefer first class. And otherwise really the airline style seats. If it's busy, the 4 seats opposite from each other, I don't like it, especially not if I'm traveling alone. But I guess I'm more the type of introvert guy. Free Wi-Fi is available, although honestly I did not test it out. Simply because you need to register and I didn't feel like that. I mean, I don't have anything to hide, but I don't want to register for using the Wi-Fi. About ticket fares for these trains. This train is going through Switzerland, starts in Germany and ends in Italy, or the other way around, just how you travel. This also means you have 3 different types of ticket fares. The Germans, the Swiss and the Italians, and it might be interesting to look up the different ticket fares they have to offer on this. And I mentioned this in many videos already in the past, and I'm doing this again. My favorite website for this journey to book train tickets is Trainline. Simply because all the booking systems that are usable for this journey are linked to the Trainline website. So it would just find the best prices for you, what is perfect. Also, Trainline is able to combine different ticket fares. For example, if you're traveling from another station in Germany than what stations where these trains do call, you cannot buy it via the Italians. And if you go to some smaller stations in Italy, you cannot book it via the Germans. Let's not talk about the Swiss on this topic. I mean, they do offer quite a lot as well, but let's keep it simple. I mentioned Trainline already in many of my other videos, and now I do have an affiliate link as well. It's in the description of this video. I really appreciate it if you book the train tickets through that link, because this way you also support this channel a little bit. For now I will just stop talking and show you the views from the train, and I write some basic information written on the screen. If you want to see the views from the train for the entire route with for the biggest part also the original sound, you find a link in the description of this video where I publish that specific video. And if it's not there yet, it will just be a link to that specific YouTube channel. Because I just started it, I also really appreciate your subscription on that channel. Maybe I change my mind on this and will just eventually be publishing on the Trainviking YouTube channel. But for now, just sit back, relax and enjoy the ride. I hope you like this video on board of this train. You like the journey? It's a long journey. It was fun. It's a beautiful ride. It's from Frankfurt in Germany via Basel, Zürich, some of the towns in Switzerland, to Milan here in Italy. From here on, we'll catch another train tonight. There will be a trip report on that as well. That is to Sicily. And it's going to be a long ride. I think it's Italy's longest train ride, both in distance and travel time. I'll tell you more about that in that video. For now, I hope you liked this video or this has been helpful to you. If so, give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. If you have some questions, feedback, comments, let me know in the comment section. Even if you just want to say hello, feel free to do so. And if you like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, the main focus for this channel is once again long distance and or international traveling, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. Before we really end up with this video, one last thing. Once again, thank you for watching. If you're interested in other videos, you can find them on this channel as well, and you find a link to a map where you can find all videos as well in the description of this video. And like I mentioned already, I do have the other channel, I think will be on another channel, where I will have the views from the train. You can find that in the description of this video as well. See you on the next one.